Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This Human Rights Month, we commemorate a significant milestone, the Bill of Rights at 30, making human dignity real. For 3 decades, South Africa's constitution has been a beacon of equality, freedom, and justice for all. Yet dignity is not just written in our constitution. It must be lived, protected, and upheld every single day. Join SAFM as we unpack the issues that matter, elevate voices driving change, and reflect on the progress we've made while confronting the work that still lies ahead. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Change is scary for a lot of us, am I right? For one, it is filled with uncertainty, and we hate uncertainty. Research shows that we're more stressed when we're told we have a 50% chance of getting an electric shock than when we're told we have a 100% chance. It's wild, right? I mean, we'd rather be sure that a bad thing is going to happen than to have to deal with any uncertainty. Change is also scary because it involves loss of some kind. By definition, we're departing from an old way of being and entering a new one. And when we experience a change that we wouldn't have chosen for ourselves, it's easy to feel that our lives are contracting, that we're more limited than before. But when we take this perspective, we fail to account for an important fact, that when an unexpected change happens to us, it can also inspire lasting change within us. We become different people on the other side of change. What we're capable of, what we value, and how we define ourselves, these things can all shift. And if we can learn to pay close attention to these internal shifts, we may just find that rather than limiting us, change can actually expand us.
That is Maya Shankar, a cognitive scientist and the host of podcast A Slight Change of Plans. You're listening to The Talking Point. It's 11 after 9 o'clock. A warm welcome for you. A pleasure. Not a warm welcome for you, a warm welcome to you. It must be my brain getting ready for Easter break, right? Maybe that's why. Anyway, a warm welcome to you. It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show as we get ready to lead conversations that move us. Coming up on the show this morning, we'll start off, as we always do, with the National Round Table. And of course, you are all invited to be part of the conversation. Your voice matters on the National Round Table. I would like us also to pick up on the situation that we are watching and monitoring around not only the fuel price increase, but I think importantly the availability of fuel and what you are experiencing as you go about trying to get your car filled up. So I know that the experience is quite different depending on where in the country you are. So I would really, really, really love for our listeners in different parts of the country to get in touch with us, just to so that we have a clear sense of, the lay of the land. This morning there are reports of multiple, dozens rather, of fuel stations running dry, where customers are being turned away simply because the retailers are saying that they do not have any supply. But we also know that there does seem to be a hogging of product of sorts that is taking place, because there are retailers that are waiting for the price increase to kick in at midnight. So I want to hear, what is your experience in as far as getting access to fuel, and where in the country are you based, and what is it that you're being told? We are going to be having more in-depth conversation that builds on this tomorrow. We are lining up some of the players within the fuel sector and some of the industry bodies too, who are going to come on air and really help us understand what is happening. So that's scheduled for tomorrow. So today, I just want us to get a sense of what the experience of you as our listeners has been, by way of setting a foundation, right, for where we can take the conversation tomorrow. All right, today is a Tuesday, so what you can expect then coming up on the show today, we'll be talking finance with Brian Hirsch. It's the last Tuesday of the month, so Brian is going to be answering your questions today, the questions that you've been sending through throughout the month. So looking forward to that, and it's ahead of Easter weekend. There's nothing better than a conversation with Brian ahead of a period where we're likely to spend, it helps you make good decisions when you're in the stores, because what are you going to do? Are you going to buy an expensive chocolate bunny, or are you buying the big box that still keeps everybody happy? Those are the decisions that we're confronted with. So looking forward to the conversation with Brian coming up in the second hour of the show. And in the final hour, we're going to be focusing on the situation in Cuba. Now, Cuba has been experiencing a severe economic and energy crisis. There have been nationwide blackouts and critical shortages of fuel, of food, and of medicine. Now, the situation has only been worsened by U.S. sanctions and an oil blockade in that part of the country. And so it really is creating the grounds for what could evolve into a humanitarian crisis. So in the final hour of the show, we're going to be in conversation with Progressive International. We'll also be speaking to the Cuban ambassador to South Africa, who'll be explaining exactly how his country has been affected by these sanctions, and how it is that I think the rest of the world, what is it, number one, that the global community needs to know? Number two, how is it that the people then of Cuba can be supported during this very, very critical moment that they're going through? So that is the conversation that you can expect coming up in the final hour of the show. It is your national roundtable, and as I said, there's a seat for everybody around the table. The number to dial this morning, 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Yes, and I know that there could well be anxiety around the increase of prices, particularly to taxi fares, to bus prices ahead of this weekend, because we know the increase comes through at midnight. So we will also be dealing with some of those issues as we get through our open line. On that note, let's take a quick break, and I'm back with your calls.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Morning, Cathy. Anonymous here from the Northwest Province. Yeah, it started yesterday. They are not selling diesel at all. Yeah, petrol you can get, but diesel you can't. There was only one filling station that was selling yesterday. I was very fortunate that I was the last person on the line before they stopped selling diesel. So it's really bad. It's not that the diesel is not available. They're just waiting for the price hike. Anonymous.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult situation to put motorists in, right? But it seems that all of the calls that have been made for retailers not to hog product, not to hang on to product, that those are just landing on deaf ears in some parts of the country. So thanks to that listener for sharing that WhatsApp voice note of his experience. Like I said, I want to hear more from you about how you are being impacted by the situation that we're seeing within the fuel industry, and that affects the supply and the retailing of fuel. Let me go to Gofimvaba. Takatayo, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Lebu. How are you doing?
Good morning, Takatayo. You're live on the radio. What do you want to talk about this morning?
Thank you very much, Katie. I would like to talk about now the looming price hike from the taxis now, because I just said this morning, Mr. Mohlahlana of Santago was on the show with Oliver. One thing that I want to raise about the taxi industry, when Katie, I remember Mr. Oliver asked everything on our behalf from Mr. Mohlahlana. Mm-hmm. It was last year, Katie, December. Me, I'm the person who used to stay in Cape Town. Last year, the petrol price was downing. I think it was 105 cents. I'm not mistaken, December month. In the Western Cape, the taxis, they raised the price for coming to Eastern Cape. So it was shocking to me. The price of the petrol was downing by 1 rand, and they were raising the price. We used to pay 900 from the Cape Town to Eastern Cape, and then they raised it to 1,000 rand. Now is the emergence of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. There's another looming petrol price hike from the taxes. So my question is, sometimes it's not reasonable for them. Yes, we know everybody is affected by this petrol hike, but sometimes for the taxes, it's not reasonable.
Mm-hmm. And look, I guess part of the difficulty, Takatayo, is that when there are these very significant shocks in the price, they almost don't have a choice, because how else are they going to make up those numbers? I guess the difficulty comes in with when things now have stabilized, that they don't drop the prices at the rate at which they had increased them. And that's when it also starts to have a significant impact on in the pockets of South Africans.
Yes, Katie. Like also Mr. Oliver was asking him. Really, he was talking about also what you call subsidy that must come from the government on the taxi industry. Katie, we use sometimes to just have the option of taking buses, because bus price is flexible, Katie. When things are normal, the bus price goes down. But coming to the taxis, that says that they are favoring the black people. They don't go down, Katie, when things are normal. So that is what is affecting when it comes to the taxi. So really, Katie, last year, you see, I'm just telling you the truth. The petrol price was downing. I think it was 105 cents. Cape Town to Eastern Cape, just went up 2,000 rand from 900. What was that reason for?
All right, Takatayo, let's leave it there
Yes.
for this morning. And it's a very valid point. It's a very valid point that, yes, it's understandable when the increases have to happen, when they have to be made. But why is it that the prices never come down, even after there's some level of recovery or even some level of stability? Andile, you're in George. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
Andile, I'm going to ask you to speak a bit louder, please.
I just wanted to weigh in on this petrol thing, as Kevin. I think we as South Africa, this thing of the price control that the apartheid government used to have, that the ANC tried to implement with bread and amanina and all these things. Now I think it's the final nail in the coffin for South Africans, because if petrol and diesel go up in this way from tomorrow, imagine what it will be like in the next 4 to 6 months. And last year, the petrol did go down and diesel, I think 3 times, but no one of them tried to at least relieve South African consumers. I know big business, they're the greedy ones, but government, because they need to think about the poor. But I don't think they think about the poor, Bona, as long as they maybe.
So Andile, what would you have government do? The price of petrol is regulated, right? Then the knock-on effect of those increases is left to your food retailers to sort of deal with. And so where they're increasing prices but not reducing them, that should go straight to those food retailers. So what would you want government to do within that ecosystem that you think can help to better protect the South African consumer?
I think, government needs to think ahead every time. I hate to make this assumption that, you see countries like China think ahead, make, let's say, 6 months before or 5 years ahead. I think South African government, the guys in government don't have the proper planning. Sometimes meritocracy is the right type of system for any government. Now you put someone in look, for example, that calculation they did with NERSA. Who did that? But that person did the wrong thing. Now it's affecting us all. No one got fired. No one got into. I don't know what's going to happen to South Africa if we don't use the right kind of people in the right strategic positions. For example, we had 2 years ago we had oil reserves and they sold it, and it was found out later on that South Africa had a lot of reserves that they sold at a way cheaper price. But China is keeping reserves. China knew 6 months before that they are going to have this type of crisis, and China is not suffering as much as South Africans will, because they don't have the will to think ahead, and they don't want to uplift and liberate their own people in this country.
Yeah, look, Andile, the point you're making around forward thinking, forward planning, one can't disagree with that, right? That where we've known that there would be some volatilities, and if we're to just look at the risk of a U.S. president in the form of Donald Trump, who from the very beginning has signaled, these tensions with South Africa, we should have been asking ourselves, well, what are the worst case scenarios for us? And I think even just based off that, what you're saying around being prepared, that's something that we could have done just by virtue of knowing that this is the kind of situation that we are going to be confronted with. Yes, maybe we may not have predicted a war in Iran, but certainly to say that there are ways in which we need to be cushioning and planning for any kind of fallout that may affect South Africa that is happening globally.
I thank you for your time, Sissy.
Okay. All right.
If I speak, I'll speak whole day, but it's fine. Thank you.
Fred, you're in Polokwane. Good morning.
Cathy,
Good morning. How are you?
Good, Fred, go for it.
You know, when they say opportunity one comes once and goes for good, they mean opportunities like this from the thief that we have. You know, everybody who actually wants to milk from the poor is actually thinking on how to exacerbate price in a way to take from the poor. Look right now, take it from me, I'm telling you, the taxi industry is going to increase the exorbitant prices. But when the price goes down, they will never come, not even half of what they've increased with. They will never. Same thing applies to our current government. But one will basically, over and above, have multiple questions to say, we've got good state, good policies, and these policies are sitting in multitudes of professionals' tables. Why are they not applying them? It is not something that is new to, the ears of the economists and all those who are supposed to be deployed as researchers as to how can we combat this kind of a financial crisis that is to loom in South Africa and the rest of its neighboring country. But the challenge that we're sitting with is that to say today we are sitting with the serious problem. And if really we were to have those scientific people who have been appointed as researchers, will then be able to advise properly to say, for us to mitigate this kind of a circumstance, we can in the meantime get money from this kind of a resource or services, then it will then be able to mitigate this kind of a circumstance. We can go and get money from sugar canes, and then that money will then mitigate the issue of petrol and diesel. A lot of filling stations are not selling diesel as we speak. A lot of them. And it's not just because it's not there. They reserved it to a certain degree so they can be able to generate a better revenue. So I'm calling it a state of mafia because they are not willing to do things correctly. They are willing to do things in a way when the people are saying we are getting it difficult to survive. It's like somebody somewhere is becoming happy. And it is very painful. So we therefore need a better intervention by government to just deploy people with a scientific mind who will then be able to research and give the appropriate ways to be taken by we as the inhabitants of this country.
Okay.
Until when are we going to suffer?
Okay. Fred, in Polokwane, let's leave it there. And, we should never forget that ultimately this affects, yes, it affects everybody, but we're not equally affected by it. So somebody else in the middle class might have a bit more cushion to accommodate a 5 rand increase per litre. But imagine what that does to those that are part of the working class, right? It's just not the same. And we continue to make the situation of the vulnerable even worse. And so I think it goes back to what one of our callers, Andile, was saying earlier. What are the steps that we intentionally take to protect those that we know are more exposed than others? And it's not that those in the middle class don't feel it, they do. But certainly they won't feel it as somebody who's earning minimum wage. Somebody who's already spending half of their income on transport. Already, it's just not the same. All right, we'll take the latest news headlines, and then I'm back with your calls on the other side of this.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, some fuel stations in Johannesburg say they are running low on supply as motorists flock to fill up their tanks ahead of tonight's fuel price increase. Petrol is expected to rise by more than 5 rand per litre, while diesel could increase by nearly 10 rand per litre. Parliament's ad hoc committee, established to probe national security concerns, is expected to meet today, where they are, among others, going to discuss requesting another extension from the Speaker's office. And officials in the UAE say a Kuwait oil tanker in the port of Dubai has been hit in an Iranian drone attack, sparking a huge fire. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
It's a new day, new deadlines. You're gonna do your best. You're only human.
Thank you for your patience.
So why, when contacting your business's current provider, an automated voice adds you to an imaginary queue, like you're just another number?
Your caller number 17.
Not exactly humane, is it? Don't let bad tech choices get in the way. Switch to a dedicated human specialist, because nothing should stop your business. Call 084 1234. Cell C.
SABC2 is doing big things. That's why I'm here. I'm talking new shows, fresh energy, and stories that are going to move you. Pimville's just the beginning. Catch me Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat. The pulse of SA.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Xolani Gwala will be back again for you 6 to 9 Monday here on SAFM.
And
thanks, Xolani. Good morning and welcome to Morning Talk with me, Kim Gabadeli.
The name is Bongi Kwala. Good to be with you till midday today. Let's engage South Africa.
Welcome to Morning Talk on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader, with me, Rowena Bird.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable and accessible. If you're a Capitec client, sign into the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy, this is George here from Soweto. It is not only happening in diesel and petrol only, even in paraffin. I'm a small guy selling paraffin. Now, these paraffin wholesalers where I buy from, they've been hanging on paraffin since Friday. Since Friday, they say they don't have stock because they are waiting for the 1st of April to hike the price. And this thing is affecting the poorest of the poor, because paraffin is a product that is used by poor people. So I'm a small paraffin seller. Wholesalers are hanging on this paraffin since Friday. I went there on Friday to go and buy paraffin. They say there's no stock. It's George here from Soweto. Thanks.
Morning, Suskiti. This is Ngapswase Tsibala, who is currently in the mother city. On Sunday, I was driving up to the mother city. In Beaufort West, I paid 29 rand, I think 99 per liter. I think that petrol station is a spaza shop, because after I left for about a minute or two, there's another fuel station that was around 22 something, 23 rands, which was normal for me. So I'm seeing people here filling up their 50-liter bottle empties, whatever, with petrol. So obviously they've got a storage in their homes. So I'll be filling up mine, and tomorrow I'll be driving back to the Eastern Cape. And obviously I don't have a choice in Beaufort West, I must fill up. So I think I'll pay at that 27 something, because I will never go back to that spaza shop, as it might be around 35, 36 tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, Cathy. My belief is that the model of the business itself, the fuel industry, is lopsided in favor of the government. The entrepreneurs, they do not make money there. The only people who make money is the government, but the people who are the owners of the business are not making money. Come on, man. Let a profit be at least R1.50 a liter in terms of petrol and diesel. Come on, what they are doing now, these people are forced by the government, the way the business model is set up. Ewin B. Bobel.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Yeah, thanks for your WhatsApp voice notes. Of course, Eddie, the big thing around, the price of petrol in particular is that even though it's regulated, one of the significant line items there is the fuel levy. And that's the one that government has been lobbied for years to reduce the cost of that fuel levy. Because, when it comes to retailers, they can't actually make more out of a litre than what is regulated because everything is sort of accounted for. But if there was a change in how much is being levied from that cost, it could also significantly impact what it is that we pay every time we have to fill up with petrol. Let me go to Eddie. Have I not taken Eddie already? Eddie, you're in Cape Town. Good morning, Eddie.
Hi, good morning, Sis Cathy.
Eddie, I almost jumped you. I don't know why I thought I'd taken you already. Apologies. Good morning.
No, good morning. That's fine, Sis Cathy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Sis Cathy, I am so concerned. I don't know, maybe, but I do try my best to listen to the radio most of the time. But neither have I heard the president addressing this matter as it was appearing that it's coming. I haven't heard, so I want you maybe to help me that maybe there was this a time that the president addressed the nation concerning this issue, that the fuel is going to come to this point, and what solutions have they put in place for that? Now, I want to hear that if maybe I missed, because now we're only hearing from the media, that's all we hear, but not from the representatives of the people. So I want to hear, was there a time that maybe they addressed the nation? Because we used to have the family meetings where the president will address the nation to update the matters that are arising so that people may know that people are doing something. What is it that they are doing? The Minister of Energy is nowhere to be heard. But this is a serious situation. I see this administration of this Ramaphosa administration is taking things very lightly. They are not serious. They wait up until something, then people must start now toy because they are tired. It's not good. It's better to tell the people and give them the hope. What hope is it that they're going to give to the people? Up until now, the taxi industry now is demanding now to hear from them.
Mm-hmm.
Help me.
So Eddie, look, yes, it wasn't sort of an official presidential address, right? But President Ramaphosa this past weekend at the ANC's conference, the elective conference in Limpopo, he did speak about the fuel increases and how they would be looking into ways in which they would, soften the blow, because he says the finance minister has raised, a concern with him, and he said that he's deeply worried about what this is going to do, particularly in how it's going to impact South Africans. So it does seem that it's a conversation that the finance minister and the president are having. But I guess what you're saying, Ed, is that not many people would have necessarily been following in depth what was happening at the ANC elective conference. So this is a moment where the president himself needs to call a media briefing and update the country on this matter. In fact, I think there's another matter that he could use that opportunity to address the country on, right? The fuel price increases, the issue around the national commissioner, which is also said, they're looking into and will make an announcement soon.
But the sooner, soon, while the increase of the fuel is going to happen by today, not. So that means the address will be after. You hear what I'm saying now?
Yes.
While this address is supposed to be before something happens, because now we hear of the media, the leaking of the information, whereby people get the information. Where do they get it from? To know even the amount as to how much is gonna increase, whereby we are not hearing from the officials themselves saying it to us, but now the media is the one that is giving us this information. So there is some secret meetings, and those things will become like that. When they announce it tonight, it will be exactly as it has been said in the media. But it has not come from the presidency, but it has come from the private people, the media. And what they say in the media exactly is going to happen exactly just like that. So there is some, you see, so something is not right, honestly.
Okay, Eddie, let's leave it there. Eddie out in Cape Town. Look, and there are ways in which these calculations are done, right? Which is official, and I think every Friday you'll get updates on the DMRE website, right? And so I don't think there's necessarily a conspiracy, Eddie, around that. And of course, in between, especially where there are major shocks to the system, economists also run the numbers themselves, because it's not that difficult, especially for those who are the experts, to try and at least read and estimate what things could be. So they give you a band, right? They give you a range in which they believe the price might either increase or decrease based on what is happening globally. So I don't think that the conspiracy is necessarily there. But I hear what you're saying when you say government needs to be seen to be communicating ahead of these events, because that will also help to build trust among South Africans, and people can be better prepared. They can be better prepared for what all this means. Pugs, you're out in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Trusting you all this morning. One of my experiences with what is happening with the fuel changes. In one of the petrol stations, I won't name the brand, they've implemented something which is, I would say it's rationing, where they limit the number of cars that come to fill up for the day. And with the company that I work for, we have an account with one of the major fuel services. So when I went to fill up the vehicle the other day at one of the wholesale distribution retailers, upon being in the queue there with various other vehicles, we were told that there is no diesel. But they let us stand there for almost 50 minutes waiting patiently. So I think there's a problem with communication, number one, from the retailers, because they see the current crisis, so they should be able to communicate with the public that this is the situation that you are in. And also, them as the retailers, they should be having a two-way communication with government as to what goes on day to day in terms of the changes with the fuel crisis, and what can they do to put consumers at ease.
Sure. Pugs, 50 minutes waiting in a queue that you could have been saving up of the little diesel that you had left. You must have been so irritated when you got to the pump and that's what you were told.
It's very irritating. You see, the issue is this, Cathy, the industrial area where I'm at, it's the airport industrial area. So the fuel stations, they are far in between from each other. And the one which is most convenient is the one that you find that it gets very full, because it's more like large wholesaler where commercial vehicles also go to fill up there, and also your small cars, general cars go to fill up there. So for me to drive away from there, it puts me out where I'm going to sit in traffic for even longer.
Sure. Pugs, thanks for calling in and sharing that experience.
Yes. And then I just want to also add on the last thing. What I've noticed, especially because I'm in the industrial way where I'm at, I've noticed a sudden increase in the volume of delivery trucks that deliver the fuel, where a lot of them have been delivering more fuel which is not for vehicles, which is kerosene that is used for the aircraft. Because I've been noticing that per day there's about 4 of those trucks coming in at the airport.
Well, it could be that, of course, you can imagine the literage which your aeroplanes would use is quite high. So you might find that they're ordering in advance to try and also mitigate against the impact of the fuel increase. The only place where it becomes unfair, Pax, is where now suppliers start sort of putting everybody on a cascading list of importance, right? So where there are other clients who should have received product, they push them down further down the list, and then they prioritize certain clients simply because of how much they're buying the product for.
Yeah, you see, it is likely going to that if it hasn't already, and it would be nice for the suppliers alongside government as well as these retailers to actually communicate.
All right, Pax, let's leave it there. Thanks for sharing some and part of that insight with us. Yeah, it's quite interesting. The only way you can verify is if some of those that are receiving deliveries of this product can confirm that indeed in 1 week, they've managed to receive triple the order than what they did before. But what Pax is saying would certainly fall in line with what we know then it would make sense, basically. It would make absolute sense. Let's take a quick break. I'm back with your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes after this.
We're on the ground and in the air with Thulani Sijo, founder of Take a Pic Drones. What's the flight plan for your connectivity?
The need for stable network connectivity is an absolute must in my field.
And with Telkom Business Fiber and Flexon, Thulani uploads high-res tower inspections and navigates seamlessly on the go.
Get Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month and Flexon 4 Pro from 219 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Good morning, Cathy. You're speaking with Itumeleng Lucky Stewart here. I'm calling from Lime Acres in the Northern Cape, a small mining town. We've got also a dire situation here in our small mining town here with only one feeding petrol station. Today, since yesterday, the pumps have run dry. I don't know whether it's a scam, as you put it so clearly, to say some petrol owners are just waiting for the price increase to drop in this evening or this midnight. And now one has to travel, so plus minus 20 km to Danielsville to go and look for petrol just to fill up. Yeah. We are late in this country. Thanks, Cathy.
Good very morning to you and the listeners. On Friday I drove through Armado. All the filling stations were 27, 29 Rand. I got back via Newcastle. Newcastle every year was 27, 29 Rand. The cheapest filling station was Chippa service station in Danhouse at 19 Rand 85. Now I'd like to know, how is this possible? Is this a money-making racket for all the filling station owners? How can one service station be 1985 and the rest 27, 29 Rand? Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Cathy. About the fuel prices and things, I wonder why we aren't trying to make a huge difference in moving to electric vehicles. We could do so much more. There's a quote from George Monbiot that says, concentrated fossil power leads to concentrated political power. Had we been less dependent on fossil fuels, there might not have been President Trump, President Putin, Ayatollahs, Prime Minister Netanyahu. Fossil fuels push the world towards autocracy, overthrow our demand for them, and we overthrow much of the current tyranny. Greener, cleaner, cheaper, kinder, fairer. What a beautiful world we could have.
Cathy, I hear what Eddie is saying, but Eddie must also remember Ramaphosa does not like to face the nation. He does not like to be questioned by the media. So he'll never have media briefings where you can actually question him about matters. It's also always a doorstop with him.
All right, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Yeah, Aisha, we haven't been able to get it right, right? In as far as getting the president to follow through and commit to actually hosting regular media briefings where he takes questions from journalists. It has been a request since he started office, and there was more commitment, I think, at the beginning of his term, at least in the first term, than there is now. Now he just says he'll change, he says he'll do something, but he doesn't actually do it. And that is also part of the challenge. Benjamin, you're in Pretoria. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. Yes, morning, everybody. Of course, the fuel, the fuel crisis also, something that's been affecting me. But I'm not calling in, to speak about fuel, but something else that is actually a much more crucial, much more important commodity than just fuel, and which is water. So I'll tell you, can you hear me? Because my...
Yes, Benjamin, you're live. You're live on the radio.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've been a victim of crime twice now in this 1 month, Earlier on in the month, my car got broken into, And on Friday night, my dad's water meter got stolen out, looking after the house because he's not old. My dad is 90 years old. But anyway, Saturday morning I got out of the house, I got 7, so, water's gushing out, there's no meter in, the pipes are just wide open, and of course, it's gushing out at something like 16 bar pressure, So I did not call city council immediately, got into the car, rushed up to the hardware, got a fitting, a plug, which I tried to get on there, but because of the 16 bar pressure, I couldn't get it right, It's just too much pressure. So drove back home, got onto the phone, got hold of 20 Metro, and of course, the lady says to me, no, but I must first have a case number. I said, lady, please, we have a crisis where the water is it's running out at something like 1 million liters per minute, something.
Sheesh, that's a lot of water, Benjamin.
Yes, and it's a house water supply line. It's a 3/4 pipe, if you know better plumbing. So she was kind enough to give me the reference number without the case number. So I said to her, lady, thank you very much, and please, let him just come and close the water. I'm not expecting him to come and fix the pipe immediately. Let him just come and close the water, but I am going immediately to the police station, to get the case number. I will call it back, and so we can attach the case number to the reference number. Oh, thank you very much. So I get to the police station, two cops in the charge office. I had a movie of a fight with these people. You won't believe it. And I'll tell you what, since I got up, at least since I walked out of the house that morning, I was in this crisis mode, You know what the policeman says to me? I say to him, man, guys, you know what? The problem here, the house is right here next to this police station. And this is the truth. The house is about 60 meters away from the police station. 60 meters, not kilometers, meters. This thing got stolen here in the middle of the night because when I went to the bathroom about 4, I saw no man. The water pressure is low. So I thought, it's just one of the area's problems today, But it was just this one house up to today. The water is still gushing out, since Saturday morning. And he says to me, no, what do you mean? I say, but don't the police put patrol? The other one answers, oh, no, we have only one van. I say, but please, man, the house is right here next to the police station. I say to him, you know what, at least what the police can do is patrol our area. We are rates and taxpayers here. We are paying you guys to do this. And at least see, that there is a pipe broken, there's a problem. Pick up the phone, call the city council to quickly come out and close the water. Oh, no, he says to me with arrogance That is not the work of the police. We will never do it. That's your house, it's your pipe, it's your problem. The police will not do that. That is what made me get so angry that I had this meltdown. I had this movie of a fight with him. So I spoke to someone. Are you still there?
Yeah, Benjamin?
So I spoke to another guy who's actually sitting on the community CPF or something, board or something just now. And he says to me, no, they will never do that. It's not their work. I said, but my word, you sound just like a policeman. He says, no, it's not him. It comes from above. It comes from high up. The superiors have actually put this law in place. The one service will not overlap the other service. I said, but what stupidity is this? One phone call that can cost them 50 cents to save 10 billion liters of water, because I mean, since since Friday night, I was telling my neighbors yesterday, we have just seen 100,000 rands worth of water run down the drains, because it's running in two ways, in two directions, into two big drains.
Okay.
100,000 rands worth. I mean,
Benjamin?
wrong.
Benjamin, I'm going to have to leave it there with you, but I'm putting you through to our producers so that we can actively follow up with the city of Tshwane as well, because by the sounds of it, this is quite a significant leak that has taken place in your area, and it will be important to actually have it attended to, not only because of the wastage of water, but also the damage, right? The damage to properties in the surrounding areas that this could do if it is not attended to. And the fact that this is now, day 4 that this water has been leaking in the area is just, it's not acceptable at all. Not acceptable at all. Okay, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of the hour with the open line. So what we'll do is that we'll take the latest 10 o'clock news update, and then on the other side of that, we're going to get into Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch.
In our top stories, concerns grow over fuel price increases and Iranian attack sparks fire on a Kuwait oil tanker. Good morning. Some fuel stations in Johannesburg say they are running low on supply as motorists flock to fill up their tanks ahead of tonight's fuel price increase. Petrol is expected to rise by more than 5 rand per litre, while diesel could increase by nearly 10 rand per litre. The hike is attributed to global oil shocks linked to tensions involving the United States, Israel and Iran. The manager of Engine Fuel Station in Auckland Park, Oscar Dumane, says their petrol and diesel supplies are already quite low.
Pressure, and we are not getting enough as expected. Normally our tank capacity is around 23,000 a tank, of which they are not giving us enough, and it's a sign that they are struggling on their end in terms of delivery, supplies and all that. We are really panicking. We're seeing the pressure because some other service stations now they are dry already, of which it causes a lot of pressure to us as well, and that can lead us to get to dry as well.
Parliament's ad hoc committee established to probe national security concerns is expected to meet today, where they are, among others, going to discuss requesting another extension from the Speaker's office. The committee was established in August last year, but only started its interviewing process early in October last year. Its first and last witness was the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who made allegations about criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system. The deadline for the committee's lifespan is today. Celine Merrington reports.
The committee has had 2 previous extensions in an effort to finalise all testimonies from witnesses. It will now request a 3rd extension, presumably to allow for more time for a report to be compiled. There was only just more than a week left between the appearance of its last witness and the deadline. During its last deliberations to request the 31 March deadline, several MPs cautioned against prolonging the life of the committee much further. There are at least 5 MPs on the ad hoc committee who are chairpersons to crucial committees, like police, that have not been able to meet as frequently as is required.
Civic organisation Progressive Forces of South Africa will today picket at the Nigerian embassy in Pretoria in protest of the recent coronation of a Nigerian Igbo king in Kukompo in the Eastern Cape. The coronation has sparked violent unrest with several vehicles torched, foreign-owned shops looted and a local man stabbed. The group is demanding answers and accountability over the coronation and subsequent violence. Mteto Nokaitobi is the president of the Progressive Forces of South Africa.
This is a picket, and we've observed that the installation of the Igbo king and the celebrations and mockery that followed afterwards deemed Nigerian nationals. We want to send a message to the Nigerians that the Zulu and Xhosa people are not alone. That is why we are here as different civic movements who are of different tribes based here in Swane to inform that Nigerian embassy that we completely reject the statements of this stance.
The Department of Water and Sanitation has handed over part of a 1.4 billion rand water reservoir project to residents of Thembalethu amid water scarcity at George in the Western Cape. 2 facilities have been completed in Thembalethu while 2 others are being built. George Municipality Project Manager Andries Kiepers.
However, when those bulk pipelines break, then the pump stations kick in, and the pump stations pump the water from the reservoirs into the towers. And the reservoir storage provides for a day and a half of water storage for allowing time for the bulk pipelines to be repaired. So that's the core function of these facilities, and the systems are interlinked.
And finally, officials in the UAE says a Kuwait oil tanker in the port of Dubai has been hit in an Iranian drone attack, sparking a huge fire. Maritime firefighter teams have brought the blaze under control, with all 24 crew members all said to be safe. The vessel was reportedly en route to China. The BBC's Lorna Gordon has the details.
This huge oil tanker was at dock in the waters off of Dubai when it was attacked just after midnight local time by what Dubai authorities say was a drone. The ship, it's carrying 2 million barrels of oil from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and there were initially at least concerns of the possibility of an oil spill. That is now being assessed.
Recapping the top stories, some fuel stations in Johannesburg say they are running low on supply as motorists flock to fill up their tanks ahead of tonight's fuel price increase. Petrol is expected to rise by more than 5 rand per litre, while diesel could increase by nearly 10 rand per litre. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
You are listening to The Full Circle,
a space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This Human Rights Month, we commemorate a significant milestone, the Bill of Rights at 30, making human dignity real. For 3 decades, South Africa's constitution has been a beacon of equality, freedom, and justice for all. Yet dignity is not just written in our Constitution. It must be lived, protected, and upheld every single day. Join SAFM as we unpack the issues that matter, elevate voices driving change, and reflect on the progress we've made while confronting the work that still lies ahead. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
It's 7 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the Talking Point. We're talking finance with Brian Hirsch. It is going to be the last Tuesday of the month, so Brian's got a long list of questions for you. Also, when was the last time we saw Brian? No, Brian, you were here last week, weren't you? Yeah, so at least it's been 2 weeks, but 2 weeks in in 3 months of not seeing Brian. And by the way, next week, on the 7th of April, the Madanga Commission is back. So, yeah, don't hold your breath on seeing Brian anytime soon from next week, Tuesday. But we'll get into talking finance shortly. Let's just take a couple, not too many, a couple of your WhatsApp voice notes from the open line.
Dumela aus Cathy. So far in East London, I just saw some notice in one filling station that says 25 liter only for small cars and 30 liters only for the SUVs and about 40 liters per truck. Yes, so but it's only one filling station that I've seen in East London. I think it's in between Cambridge and Amalinda. V-Power something. Yeah, that's the notice that I've seen. Okay, in Greenfield, yes, it was 30 liters per car. But so far we are still fine. We are just only limited to those liters. Let's all in East London.
Says Katie, good morning. I'm in Mukoban. Last week, I think on Friday, I went to one of the petrol stations and I was told they can only give me 40 liters last week. And then I went to a different filling station. I filled the tank up. So today I went to the same filling station that said they can only give me 40 liters. They told me there's no diesel, and I'm sure there is diesel. It's just that they're making sure that they want to score the maximum when the price goes up. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, Cathy, and the listeners. Rudolph here from Witbank, Mpumalanga. You know, Cathy, I'm speaking as a taxi operator myself. I'm a taxi owner, and I think, to be quite honest, it is not fair towards the taxi industry. You know, when there's a massive increase in petrol or diesel, then we are expected not to increase our fees. Remember, we take time. We really take time to increase or adjust taxi fares. And some associations take up to 3 years not adjusting our fees. And you know, to pick on the taxi industry, I think it is not fair. I mean, a lot of retailers increase their prices, but nobody asks when are they decreasing their prices. I think it's not fair. I think the taxi industry is being picked on because it's a black-owned business. I mean, this is a business we are running, Katie. It's not gift of the givers. At the end of the day, we must make money. That's the purpose of a business.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Now leave the SABC and see the tower block lit up, 27 stories of light. Move from Auckland Park into the shadow of the Hillbrow Post Office Tower.
This is the English service of the SABC. Here is the news, read by Patricia Carr. A member of the Planning Committee of the President's Council, Mr. Nick Turnich, has been appointed chairman of the Council's Community Relations Community.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM.
Innovation doesn't end with the close of the South African Innovation Week. The week marked the beginning of deeper collaboration, continued investment, and sustained support for innovators throughout South Africa. SA Innovation Week was not just about dialogue. It was about commitments, partnerships, and actionable outcomes that will continue beyond the event. Brought to you by the Technology Innovation Agency, an entity of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
Brian Hirsch, a very good morning to you. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, lovely to be back in the dungeons and to see you all.
No, Brian, don't call our studio a dungeon. Huh?
Cathy,
I will personally take on the matter of them blocking your card if you call it a dungeon.
Well, let me say, I used to come down here 33 years ago, and I used to get terribly lost.
And you still do?
No, now
nothing has changed.
Now I do what Hansel and Gretel did, the story of Hansel and Gretel. I leave crumbs.
Oh,
all the
wow.
way from where I come. I just hope there's no duck to eat them before I go out.
Oh, Brian.
Yeah.
Great to have you in studio.
Thanks, lovely.
So today is the last Tuesday of the month, and we're going to be dealing with some of the questions that our listeners have been sending through. And of course, you and I both know that there's quite a lot that people want to try and get us to run through, especially when it's the last Tuesday of the month. So we're going to try our best, right, in terms of that list, because I see that there's quite a bit, but I guess it's also been a build-up because we've had such limited segments since the commission started.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I don't think we've done the last Tuesday of the month for 4 months.
Yeah,
So I've been collecting these questions, and many of them are of a similar nature. They may not be the exact, but they deal with the same subject that is dealt with in the questions this morning.
Brian, I want to start with a question that is not necessarily about early retirement, or that is linked to early retirement, which is one of the questions that people have here. In fact, let me do this. Let me allow you to answer this question, but I'm going to have a follow-up, and the follow-up is going to be around retrenchments and special packages, because there are a number of companies that are cutting down on jobs, and they're giving people options in terms of taking severance packages. And I really want you to give people advice on that too, in terms of what their considerations should be before making such decisions. So the question that we have here is around whether one should take early retirement and how should they weigh that decision.
Yeah, look, the reason this question comes up regularly because government are encouraging people to take early retirement. They want to replace with younger people. They want to give people an opportunity. Now, let me explain, and it's quite technical. There are two types of pension funds. There's a defined benefit pension fund and a defined money purchase pension fund. The defined benefit fund is where the company offers you a multiple of number of years of service that you've worked for the company as a percentage of over, say, called 50. So if you work for a company for 25 years out of 50, your pension will be approximately, and there are different formulas and different definitions at retirement, highest salary over the last year or the last 5 years. But let's be simple. If you work for a company in a defined benefit fund for 25 years and it's a 50-year scheme, you will be offered a pension of 50% of your salary that you were earning based on that formula at retirement. Now, there are two components to that. One is your contribution to the retirement fund. The other is the employer contribution. When you're young, the company doesn't have to pay anything because they can fund for your retirement. And only when you get older does the employer then start contributing. And he may have to contribute at a ridiculously high rate. But it's all averaged out amongst the group of employees and their average age. So under a defined benefit fund, it's a question of how long you've worked. If you retire early, you need to understand, one, are they going to penalise you because you've retired early, or to encourage you, are they going to assume you've worked? So let's say someone who's going to work for 25 years and out of the 50 years, and he's now only worked 20 years, the employer may say, we will give you the benefit as if you had worked the extra 5 years, even though you haven't. That's a defined benefit fund. And that definition is critical, because when you early retire, you're going to live longer, because your years of expectancy, life expectancy is longer. Secondly, you're going to have saved for a shorter period. And thirdly, you're going to have lost out on the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest. So you need to understand not what you've been offered today, how does this translate into you 10, 15, 20 years later? Because with inflation, and let's assume retirement inflation is 7%, because there are certain things you're not paying off debt, and if interest rates come down, it's a benefit, but you've still got to pay food, you've still got to pay petrol, you've still got to pay medical aid. Let's assume inflation is 7% a year. In 10 years' time, what you're going to need today, in 10 years' time, you're going to need double, and in another 10 years' time, you're going to need double again. So if you're retiring with 15,000 at age 55, come 75, the equivalent purchasing power that you're going to need is 60,000 Rand. I know it sounds a fortune, but it's 20 years' time. Understand, think back what you were earning 20 years ago and what you're earning now. So all I'm saying is, before you accept early retirement, understand the costs, the implications, the benefits, the penalties, and understand what it's going to mean to you in the year's time. If you're going to retire, ultimately, let me say this, if you retire, it doesn't mean you have to stop work. So if you're in a position where you can receive an early retirement benefit and go back into employment, that could be the best of both worlds. So you need to consider all those factors.
Of course, for many people who are in government jobs, that sometimes presents a bit of a challenge, right? Because, the assumption is that if you've taken that retirement package, then that position is sort of closed, that it's no longer available for occupation. So it would be about exploring options, right, elsewhere in the industry, maybe the private sector, where one could freelance, or there could be a contract, right? Is that what you have in mind?
Absolutely correct. By the way, even people who are retiring today at 65, life expectancy is that much longer. And I think, that we are starting to feel, we're not feeling our age. We are retiring and we're still capable. So I say to so many people, to supplement your pension and maybe not use all your pension, go and try a second job. Find something to add to what you're going to earn, because of that fear of longevity, how long you're going to live, and inflation. So the skills you've acquired working for government, whatever department, again, when you're offered retirement, go and speak to employment agencies, go online, see what is available. Then you may have the best of both worlds. You may have got the benefit of retiring and not being penalised, even though you're retiring early, and you can find employment.
Of course, if you're much younger and you find yourself in the position as what I was describing earlier, Brian, where you're being given the option of taking a severance package, your life is completely different, because sometimes you're nowhere near retirement, and you have so many other considerations to make. Maybe you haven't finished paying off your bond, etc., etc. How must we approach that conversation? Because one, of course, would also be dealing with the pressure of, well, what happens if I don't take this package and later, my position becomes redundant and I walk away with a lot less than what I could have had if I had taken a package?
Well, often that's the offer. You take a severance package, or your position may become redundant. There's the danger, and then people want certainty and not insecurity, so they may go ahead with that. For younger people, also you mentioned the word retrenchment. If you're being retrenched, there's certain laid down commitments from employers what they have to pay you. The minimum is 1 week for every year you've worked. A generous employer may give you 2 weeks for whatever you worked. Remember, whatever cash payment you get at in terms of retrenchment or early retirement, you can actually access 550,000 Rand tax-free. It's a one-off offer, whether it comes from retrenchment or early retirement or retirement. The first 550,000 of any benefit. Anything above is taxable, so you need to look at the tax consequences. But certainly with severance, it becomes a fear. And you know, employer may say, no, your job's secure, you don't have to take it. But you've got to have enough brains to understand, is there risk? And then you need to weigh that up. And then before you do anything, you need to go into the labour market. Very difficult market, but the chances are you do have skills and you can utilise those skills. You've got knowledge, you've got experience, you've got those skills, you've got wisdom. That's what you need to consider before you go into early retirement or voluntary retrenchment.
What are the tax implications of taking that package? So what does one have to bear in mind in terms of how they might be financially affected? Just there's the obvious, of course, that you're not going to be getting that regular income, etc. But what do they have to bear in mind around taking that package when making a decision?
Okay, well, you need to understand what have you earned in this particular year that you're taking the benefit. Any benefit that's been offered to you, excluding retirement, I'll come to retirement in a moment, any benefit that's been offered to you will be added to your taxable income. So I know this sounds strange. If you're going to be retrenched, rather be retrenched in the 1st of March, rather than the 28th of February, because you'll have earned the whole year's salary up to the 28th of February. And if you get retrenched or you get this package, subject to the following, I'm going to deal with that now, it will be added to your taxable income. However, there is a benefit that government allows and revenue allows, 550,000 Rand of any retrenchment benefit or any cash received from a retirement fund by way of retirement or withdrawal. The first 550,000 Rand is tax-free on retirement. And if you're going to be, if it's not retirement, if it's retrenchment, then from a retirement fund you'll get 27,500 tax-free, and up to 660 you'll be taxed at 18%. So you need to look at the tax consequences. So in the old days, going back to the 70s, people used to say, if you have a baby, because we were all taxed as separately, if you had a baby on the 28th of February, you got a benefit for having that baby before the end of the tax year. So was there family planning because of that? It certainly came into play. Today it's not like that at all. You don't get benefits whether you've got 1 or 2 or 3 children. You may get benefits in another area, but not from the receiver of revenue.
Sure. Okay. So, Brian, thank you so much for that. And as you heard, when your employer comes to you with the bad news, remember Brian's words. If you're going to take it, say, please retrench me on the 1st of March. Don't do it any time before there. And it's so unfair, though, that is added to consider to be part of your income and your earnings for the year. Because number one, it distorts the picture. Number two, your tax is that much higher. So actually, it's a double tax that you're paying.
Although whenever that happens, you still can get the 550. But remember, if you take the 550 from retrenchment, because of that, then when you retire, you won't get that 550. You'll have used it up. So when I jokingly say be retrenched on the 1st of will get your package on the 1st of March, it means that maybe for that year your taxable income is going to be a lot lower, because you're probably not going to get 12 months salary, so there may be a tax consequence, which will then give you the benefit of still using the retirement benefit. Cathy, I'm saying this to our listeners. Don't become your own financial advisor. Talk to a financial advisor. All the banks have very capable financial advisors, because we're all governed by FAIS, the Financial Advisory Intermediary Services Act, which states we need to understand our clients' needs, we need to give appropriate advice with full understanding of what their intentions is, what are their plans going forward. So, and if you're not getting that sort of advice, you always have the FAIS Ombud to report us to that you did not get the full advice. However, speak to a financial advisor, and I'll deal with the second question now about whether, when you retire, what you must do. Exactly the same thing. Because when you retire, Cathy, you have options. You can take 1/3 in cash. And if you haven't used the 550,000, you can take that tax-free. Of that 550, let's say you've got a pension worth 3 million, 1 million is going to come out in cash. The first 550 is going to be tax-free. The next 220 is going to be taxed at 18% and then ratchet up to as much as 36%. So you may not take the 1/3, you may take less, and the balance you buy a pension, and then you have a choice of pension. You can buy a fixed pension with escalations, which means you give up the right to the capital, which in many cases is the right thing to do, because retirement is not about leaving money to your children. Retirement is about leaving money for your needs, your spouse's need, and that needs to come first. I know we educated our children, we looked after our children, we got them, we schooled them and everything like that. We've done everything. We made great sacrifices to our working life for the benefit of our children. When it comes to retirement, it's not time to make sacrifices if it's going to affect your life, because that's what you've worked for. You want to at least try and have some golden years. So again, you could get a fixed annuity or you can get a living annuity, which that means that you will leave money to children. But you need to understand the options, and you need to understand how it affects you, the pensioner, you, the person who's going to be in retirement.
All right, Brian, it's so important for us to learn and to educate ourselves on some of these issues, because it's almost like donating money to the taxman, right? Giving him money for free, money that in this instance, dare I say, he does not deserve.
Cathy, that's not completely true. The receiver of revenue gives you options, and within those options there are very many tax avoidance schemes, not tax evasion, tax avoidance. If people don't use those tax avoidance schemes, it's their own fault. Don't come afterwards and say, I didn't know it. That's why I'm emphasizing, get hold of a financial planner in the regions and take time. You know you're retiring. Take time now. We've got clients coming to us telling us they're retiring next year. Can we have a look at it? Can we plan with them what they're going to do? They've got a long time to plan. These are people who are actually voluntarily retiring. But, retrenchment, as you say, comes all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So those type of things. But talk to a financial planner.
Okay, Brian. All right. The other question then for the week, let me see the time. Okay, we won't have enough time for me to ask the question and for you to give an answer, Brian. So what we'll do is that we'll continue with the questions of the month for Brian. Of course, later on in the hour, we'll also be taking your calls. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. That's where you can send your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. It's 10:30. Let's take the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I'm on Delambana, and a very good morning. The Western Cape Education Department has urged parents who have not yet applied for grade 8 placements for their children for the 2027 academic year to do so with urgency. Some fuel stations in Johannesburg say they're running low on supply as motorists flock to fill up their tanks ahead of tonight's fuel price increase. And the president of Syria is due to pay his first visit to London today, where he's expected to hold talks with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Talking Finance with Brian Hirsch, making sense of your finance.
All right, Brian Hirsch is in studio. We're getting through your questions for the month, given it is a last Tuesday. And that's what we do every last Tuesday of the month. Brian just tackles all of the frequently asked questions that he's received throughout the month. Yeah, look, Brian, number 3, when we see the prices of fuel going up in the way that has been projected, this, of course, is going to have a knock-on effect on the price of food, will have a knock-on effect even on inflation. So we know that this particular item we're about to speak about, insurance, is among the first to suffer. But this question is around how to calculate life insurance.
Well, let me explain to you what happens with insurance. There are different premium patterns. You can buy a life insurance policy where your premium is fixed for a certain period of time, and only after that time do they have a review and they can up the premium. You can buy it on age rated, which means every year as you get older, you pay a little bit more. In the early stages, younger people, that isn't great. In the older stage, people who are older, into their 60s, 65s, it gets a lot higher. Or you can also have an automatic increase. So you need to understand the premium pattern. When you talk about the things that are important and you talk about inflation, let me just make the comment about inflation, because people hear about inflation. People hear about the petrol price. What I'm concerned about is we were on a trajectory where interest rates were coming down. Let me say this for pensioners. Pensioners have had an excellent 4 years with high interest rates after COVID. In 2022, we had the meltdown. We had the interest rates going up when interest rates all over the world went up, and pensioners enjoyed that benefit. Interest rates have been coming down the last 18 months, and interest rates have come down 1.75% in that period of time. So people with financial debt, whether it be bond or motor car, any installment payments, have got the benefit. Pensioners are losing out because with inflation, they are now getting lower rates of interest. So I sympathise and I understand pensioners are struggling. But when it comes to giving up anything, I say there are two types of insurance. One is assurance, which is what you buy from a life insurance company, and insurance is what you buy from short-term companies. The event may or may not happen. You can insure a motor car, it may or may not happen, the accident. You can insure your home for fire, and that's called insurance. And all I'm saying is don't give up on that. Always insure for catastrophe. If you lose your laptop and you lose your phone and all those things, yes, it'll cost to replace, but it won't cripple you. But if your house burns down and your contents are burnt down or something like that, when it comes to life insurance, there are 3 components. The first component is debt. If you've got debt, make sure you've got life insurance to cover the debt. Don't leave your families with debt. 2, most important thing you can give our children other than values is education. Make sure you calculate together with a financial advisor. There are policies that provide guaranteed education for your children. What is it going to cost to educate your children from young age right through to university? Work it out and make sure you've got cover, which can be reducing, because someone that you're insuring a kid of 6 for the next 19, 18 years, as compared to a kid of 14, which has maybe only got 10 or 12 years, you can have sort of cover that reduces over the time. But make sure you can educate your child. So now you've dealt with the 2 most important components for a family. Then it comes to, if one of the spouses dies, what is the effect on the other spouse and the family on monthly living, paying the bills of life, transport, food, everything that goes on a monthly basis. So you need to understand, and again, you need to do the calculation of how much cover will you need so that your family will have an income over and above your schooling, debt paid off. So remember, your budget will be very different, because if you take most people working today, 50 to 60% of their expenditure goes on education and debt. So you need a lot less, and you can calculate what will my family need, take into account inflation. And that's a simple way of doing it. One last comment. A lot of people are members of pension and provident funds where there may be life cover. Yes, include that, but remember, if you leave the company, you may have an option to take over the cover, but at a premium applicable to an individual, not a group. But if you leave a company, often you don't take over the cover. So cover you buy for yourself is up to you to decide if you want it to go on. If you leave your company, you lose the cover.
What are the options in terms of benefits within a life policy that we can and should look at, especially where we want to manage the price of the premium? Because sometimes maybe I used to afford it in one season, but now I can no longer afford it.
Yeah. Well, that again, if you, depending on the premium pattern, you can find you start off lower and then you build up the premium. That's one method. The other method is where you take age rated, and certainly for the younger people with young children who are growing, people anything up to 45, 50, premiums don't escalate as they do after that age. Even 60 and higher gets worse. Or you can go work on a automatic increase on your premiums, like everything else does. Your medical aid goes up, your short-term insurance goes up, everything you do, even the food and all the things, all the entertainment, everything goes up. But you're right, Cathy. Do the budgets carefully and let that be paying yourself first before you start. If you lose your job, it is a problem. Buy life insurance for what it is. Don't build up cash values and pay extra for savings. Buy life insurance as it is.
While we're still on the topic of life insurance, often something that's very close to it, which in the South African market, I think is just, it has made financial institutions so much money. My technical director, Zalma, is hiding her face because she knows exactly where this conversation is going. Funeral schemes, Brian, and I think what we've come to observe is that we don't fully understand, and I include myself in it, right? Because sometimes I have to question, do I really know? Do I really understand? Do I? I think I do, but then I have to reference our conversations and I have to channel my Brian Hirsch. But the distinction between, or the difference between life insurance and funeral schemes, and the fact that those two products do very different things. But I don't know whether it's due to clever marketing or the messaging that as South Africans were consistently given about funeral schemes, we end up thinking that these are one in the same thing.
Well, predominantly they are. You're paying out when someone dies. The difference is the method of payment. When you buy life insurance and you die, sometimes it can take quite a while to get it paid out. It may be a sudden death, there may be an autopsy required, there may be reasons why the insurance company investigates it. They may want to have a look at it. Certainly if it's in the early years, they may want to have a look when you gave information on your health. Did you disclose everything? It can take times. Funeral schemes are about access to immediate money. We've got a funeral. The funeral is going to take place in the next week to two. We've got to access money for that funeral. We can't wait for life insurance companies to pay out. So a funeral scheme is more what we would call an immediate payout in the event of funeral, and it's not always. Sometimes there is investigation, but in the main, funeral scheme companies do pay out so that the families have money to bury. And as you know, particularly in the African tradition, it's a costly process, very, very costly in terms of the celebration of that person's life. And so you've got to understand, it's no point having funeral cover for 10,000 Rand, because 10,000 Rand isn't going to go that far. So you need to understand the benefit, the immediate payout. But it's certainly, and it's an expense. So when I said to you, education, debt, and what's the family going to need, an extra cost would be the cost of that funeral. And in some places, I've seen funerals cost 150,000 Rand, as much as that. And I don't know, what is the minimum cost of a funeral today, Cathy? Any idea?
No, I have no idea, but it's quite expensive just from the point of the number of people you have to feed for the number of days. So I'm not even getting into what kind of casket somebody's going to get.
So,
but you're probably looking at about 30 to 50,000 rand.
Now, many families can have everyone covered on their funeral scheme. They can have children, they can have brothers, they can have parents, they can have both spouses on that funeral scheme. I think you also need to shop around. There are quite a few companies providing for funeral schemes. And there may even be one or two, I'm not really a fay with how they work. There may be one or two that may give a cash payout after a certain period of time if there's been no claim. But again, shopping around, but there are also capable funeral scheme brokers, and finding out what is the best cover for your need and understanding if you need to disclose anything. Because remember, selection against the company. If you know someone's dying and you go and buy a funeral scheme and then 3 months later they're dead, the funeral company may question, did you give all the information when you took out the policy? Because their premium is based on risk. What is our risk for that particular event?
Is it wise, Brian, to take out a number of funeral schemes? Because now I'm thinking, what's going to happen? Because obviously there's a certain amount that I would have targeted in my mind. So one funeral scheme pays 50,000, another one pays 100,000. But now I know, hey, if this person dies, I must have enough for the funeral and maybe just a little bit that I can put in my pocket. Yeah. And look, death is not a laughing matter. He says, Zelma, you've got to get your act together, man. We're talking about a serious issue here. So how do I know? Should people be taking out more than one funeral scheme? Because what we also know about our population is that more than often one individual will have more than one funeral scheme. I know if I just go around this office and ask everybody how many funeral schemes they have, they'll be like, there's this company, there's that company. So Zelma's already got she's the first one to have her hand up. Yeah. She's got at least 3.
Cathy, common sense tells me and makes me ask the question, why do you need more than one funeral scheme, other than if you can't get enough cover from that particular scheme? They may have a maximum. They may have a 50,000 rand maximum and you want 100,000. All the good reason to have 2 funeral schemes. But it's a question of premium. If I've got 3 funeral schemes, what am I paying? What is my total premium? If I go to each one of those 3 companies and say, can you increase my cover? So let's assume I've got simply 40, 40, 40. So I go to the company and say, what will you charge me for 120? If they'll give you that cover, compare the premium and see whether there's a saving. But if you can't get the additional cover and you need for that extra cover, then you're going to have to more funeral schemes. But it makes no sense to me, to have all these different funeral schemes. It's a question of cost.
Yeah, and you're introducing something else that we often don't actually engage with these service providers. We take the products that they sell to us as they are packaged. So there'll be very few people who would have done what you're saying, Brian, actually say, no, but I don't want the package that you have for 40,000. I want 50,000 or 60,000. These are not conversations that we go far enough in having. And sometimes it's just because maybe we don't know that we can actually do that, right? We don't know.
Cathy, just remember, a funeral scheme is what we call assurance. The event will happen at some time, and not may happen. It's not like having a motor car accident, it may happen. So you need to do that calculation. Look, I don't know enough about funeral schemes, and maybe there are brokers who are listening to this program and saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. Fair enough, I accept that. I'm just saying common sense says to me, check the premiums of the 3 schemes. Are the premiums exactly the same? And question, why do you have 3 schemes? What are you hoping or hoping not to happen? So just to understand, because that means you've got to do paperwork on the event of a funeral. You've got to do paperwork to 3 different companies. You've got to wait for 3 companies to pay. Better to have one broker who, if something happens, you talk to that broker and get that claim paid.
Okay. Brian, just before we wrap it up on this one, a question about premiums, that they go up, but the payout remains the same.
No, not in all cases.
Okay.
Okay. Premium patterns will say age rated. So every year you're going to pay a little bit more. You're paying more for the extra age, and your premium and your life sum insured may not go up. When you take a pattern where your premium goes up and your life cover goes up, and maybe the life cover doesn't go up in exactly, maybe your premium goes up 5% and your life cover only goes up 4%, but you're increasing your life cover. So again, people must understand the cheapest premium does not necessarily mean the right cover. But sometimes one tends to buy, I need to have cover, I can't afford a much, I'm going for the cheapest premium. But don't just leave it at that, because that cheap premium catches up in the years to come. We've got people now who are in their 60s and 70s, their premiums are doubling. And it's not a joke. If someone's paying 10,000 Rand a month, the insurance company have said to them, either you can halve your cover at the same 10,000, or you're going to have to pay 20,000, or somewhere between. So understand, when you're young, you want cover at the most competitive rate for the right cover. But as you get a little bit older and you start earning a bit more, evaluate if that's the right cover for you.
Okay, Brian, I'm going to start taking some of our questions from our listeners that are actually on the line. So let me start in Sky City. Busa, good morning to you.
Morning, Sis Katie and Brian there.
Morning, Busa.
Yes, man. I've got the question for Brian there. For pension funds, when you are going to retirement, you are going to tax your money for a tax they are going to tax you when you are going to retire. Whereas I've been, let's say for instance, because now I'm still working, I'm working for the local municipality, I'm doing 18 years working for them. They used to tax me all those years. It is fair when I'm going to pension again, they are going to tax me. Again, on my retirement annuity, I save my money for myself. So I want to ask you the question there again. Are they going to tax me with the retirement annuity that I have with the Metropolitan, that I save for myself?
Yes, they are going to tax you, and the reason is Revenue have said during the period that you've been contributing to a retirement annuity, you are getting a tax deduction. When the money invested in the retirement fund, there is no tax payable. When there's interest earned, when dividends are paid, when capital gains are created, the retirement fund, all the assets within the retirement fund grow tax-free. And there the argument is, because we've given you these allowances, we want to encourage you not to take the cash. So we're limiting the cash withdrawal to 1/3, with 550,000 being tax-free, the next 220 being taxed at 18%, the next 350 being taxed at 27%, and all the balance being taxed at 36%. So they want to encourage you, yes, take some cash that you may need, buy a pension. Your earnings will be less. You also get more benefits in retirement as a tax deduction. You get medical aid as a deduction. You also get a higher amount of interest when you get to 65. So they do give you certain allowances, nothing compared. You're also probably going to be earning less in retirement than while you were working. So your tax tables are lower. So you will still get benefits. But to answer your question, and I know I've gone around about just explaining to other people, yes, there will be tax payable.
Yeah, no, it's not fair, Brian. It's not fair, really. I've been working for the municipality for 30 years now. I'm just making an example. Now I have to go to retirement, and I was being taxed all those years.
Yeah, but don't,
it's fine.
Yeah. But Busa, don't just use the word tax. Let someone help you work out what tax you're going to pay, because you may be getting into a state for no reason. It may not be substantial taxes because of all the benefits that you can get as a tax deduction. So have a look at it before you get into state, and then compare, if you can, what the tax savings you've had and what the investment returns have done for you because of non-tax in the retirement product. So do the numbers so you can get a better feel for what the tax is. It's not just going to be taxed at the highest rate.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, Busa, I agree with you 100%. It's what I was saying earlier, but you heard Brian gave me a slap on the wrist, right? He says, no, take advantage of the tax avoidance schemes. Stop complaining. Stop crying. Use the information and the knowledge that is available. But I understand 100%, Busa, why you're saying what you're saying.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Busa's absolutely right. You think about it. You earn money, pay tax. You invest it, earn interest. Over and above the tax threshold, you pay tax. You make an investment, you make a gain, you pay capital gains tax. You then retire, you pay tax, and then you die, you pay state duty.
You see, you couldn't empathize with me earlier when I was raising it, Brian. You only empathize with Musa, so clearly I'm the problem here. All right, let's take more of the questions that our listeners are sending through. Let's go to the WhatsApp line.
Yes, good morning, Sis Cathy. You see the problem, like the reason why people take like different like cover with different like insurance companies is because you will find that the other one will decline, the other one will pay, and then like with life cover, it takes time to pay. Like, but with funeral cover, if you've got a problem at home, then they are quick to pay. Then you can continue with your funeral arrangement without any hassles. But with life cover, it can take up to months, whereas you are stuck with the body and then you need to do the burial. And then like maybe the other one will reject the claim and then the other one will pay. You see, that's why people like they take with different companies. Thanks.
He brought up one thing. Some companies do take time. They don't take months and months and months as long as you provide all the documentation. They only take time if the insured who bought the policy has not disclosed, is undisclosed health evidence. And or in the case of suicide, if they've committed suicide within a 2-year period. I think most policies have a 2-year suicide clause. But you're absolutely right. You know, you could take out a policy today and you could take another policy in 3 years. Today you took out the policy and you're in perfectly good health. 3 years' time you take out a policy and you had a change in your health which you never disclosed. So company A will pay, company B may hassle. So this is why I always say, make sure when you buy anything, whether it be motor car insurance, whether it be fire insurance, whether it be life insurance, you get underwritten up front. You give them all the information for them to make an assessment of you so you don't have a claim at the time of death. Because the last thing you want to do is think you've got insurance for your family, you die, and it turns out you did not disclose certain material information and there's no payout.
Let me read out this message before I take more of our callers from Squire Matsebe in Bosbokrand. He says, I recently received a pension payout of roughly 1.7 million and I'm not planning to use it anytime soon. Brian, how can I grow this money to give me a good return in a period of 5 to 6 years?
Yeah, Squire, I'm a bit questioning why you drew the money. If you didn't, when you reach retirement, you don't have to take the money. You can just leave it in what they call the deferred pension, let it continue to grow, because remember, the growth in the retirement fund is completely tax-free. Everything that happens in that retirement fund. If all the money was sitting in cash, earning 8%, you were sitting in cash, earning 8%, you would pay tax. In the fund, you don't pay tax. If you invested and made a gain in your own name, you'd pay capital gains tax over and above the first 50,000 Rand a year, which was increased gift from a Minister of Finance in our budget, went from 40 to 50. So when you say you've taken the money, does that mean you've actually withdrawn the money? Where's it sitting? Is it sitting in a preservation fund? Is it still sitting in the retirement fund? So one would need to understand that before one can advise you. I'm going to give my number out. If you want to, my office can find out and speak to you about that. I'll give the number out after the show.
Okay. Olani, you're in Welcome. Good morning.
Morning, Ms. Cathy. How are you?
Good. Go for it.
Yeah, I want to talk about this thing of tax, the SARS issue. Really, as taxpayers, we are in trouble in this government. The amount that we are paying for tax, like the previous speaker, the one that was complaining about retirement annuity and the pension, every month you get taxed But also when you take your money now for pension, again, the government also take the money again. I don't think this case is it fair, especially we as mine workers. We are paying tax in bonuses, tax overtime is tax. All the money that people were receiving is get taxed by this government, on which I don't think is it fair. I don't know how Brian is going to explain, but most of people, they are complaining about the way they are being taxed by this government.
I've taken a deep breath because I don't really know what to say. I hear you. By the way, this is not new to South. This is not only in South Africa. This is worldwide, where people get tax deductions, contributing to retirement funds, and pay tax at the other end. The question is, how much do you get? When you talk about tax, understand, if you contribute during your working life to a retirement fund, you get a tax deduction. If you contribute to a pension or provident fund, you get a tax deduction. And then at the other end, at retirement, you get a certain amount tax-free, and the balance buys your pension, and your pension will be lower. And in many cases, and in retirement, you're not going to be paying tax before 170 or 180,000 rand. So when you talk about tax, before I understand the concern. I don't have an answer for you because that's laid down by revenue and in our budget and all the things that go with that. But before what you should do is ask someone to show you the benefits of what you've saved in tax, where you can, and what that tax is payable. And you may be very surprised. We talk about tax as a generic number. It's not generic. Everyone's taxes are different, and everyone's circumstances are different. And remember, most people, when they reach retirement, don't get anywhere near than 50% of their salary. So that's already going to be lower tax than what you're getting. Get someone to do the numbers with you to make you feel better. It's not going to make you feel completely better because you've always said we pay tax all our lives, and when we come to retirement we pay tax. But we do pay tax at a lesser rate than during our working lives.
All right, Xolani, we'll leave it there. I'm looking at the time. Okay, let's see. Maybe I can squeeze in some voice note questions there. Quite a bit, but I know we won't be able to get through to all of them. Let's take this question.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning, Brian. We're speaking Itumela in Kimberley. I just wanted to find out, is it wise to open a tax-free account for my nephew's educational needs? He's 6 at the moment, or can I choose another way to save for his education? Thank you very much. Bye.
You're absolutely correct. Tax-free savings is the way to go. Let me explain to you. Again, in our budget, it was increased from 36,000 a year to 46,000 rand a year. If I invest 46,000 rand in an investment, whether it be a bank or anything else, and I'm not going to talk about tax now, or the numbers, because 46,000 you're not going to pay much tax. But what it means is the money you're putting into a tax-free saving. In that tax-free saving, it's liquid. You can use it for education, and during the roll-up, during the years that you save, you pay no tax on the underlying investments. So absolutely correct. Tax-free saving is the right way to go to save. One of the ways to go to save for education. There are many other ways. We can discuss that at another time.
Okay, Brian, that brings us to the end of our segment for today. It'll be a while since we are together on this platform. Your number, please. No, you've got a website now.
Let me give my number as well.
You're fancy now.
Yeah, let me give the number. The number wasn't working. It's 011 880 4888, and my website is www.bhca.co.za.
You're right. www.bhca.co.za. Okay, Brian, thank you so much as always. It's now 11.
And by the way, happy Easter. And
you didn't bring me chocolate.
Yeah, I didn't bring you chocolate.
No, there's no.
Happy Easter to our call, and to all our Jewish listeners. We call it Pesach. We use the word Chag Sameach. I wish you all the very best, and all the best to everyone else who's celebrating, and anyone else who's doing whatever they do. Please drive safely.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, parents in the Western Cape urged to apply for grade 8 placements, and civil society organizations picket outside the Nigerian High Commission. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good morning. The Western Cape Education Department has urged parents who have not yet applied for grade 8 placements for their children for the 2027 academic year to do so with urgency. The department says parents of 28,000 current grade 7s have not yet applied, with 2 weeks to go. The on-time admissions window closes on the 14th of April. Provincial Education Minister David Maynard says parents should prioritize applications. Some fuel stations in Johannesburg say they are running low on supply as motorists flock to fill up their tanks ahead of tonight's fuel price increase. Petrol is expected to rise by more than 5 rand per litre, while diesel could increase by nearly 10 rand per litre. The hike is attributed to global oil shocks linked to tensions involving the United States, Israel and Iran. Manager of Engine Fuel Station Auckland Park, Oscar Dumani, says that petrol and diesel supplies are already quite low. Several minority opposition parties in Nelson Mandela Bay in the Eastern Cape are expected to table a motion of no confidence in Executive Mayor Babalwa Lobisha today. The parties, including ACDP, FF Plus and Good, cited service delivery failures, including power outages, water disruptions and controversy over the leasing of a 25 million rand municipal transformer to Kucha Stills, among other concerns. The meeting comes as large parts of the city have been without water for days, caused by collapsed pylons along the Allington line. The metro is governed with ANC-led coalition, with the party having 48 out of 120 seats. The motion would need the DA, EFF and several more smaller parties for the motion to succeed. ACDP's Lance Grootboom says the state of the metro has declined under her leadership. Civil society organizations are picketing outside the Nigerian High Commission in Pretoria, this after the unauthorized coronation of the Igbo king in Kukombo in the Eastern Cape. And further afield, the president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, is due to pay his first visit to London today, where he's expected to hold talks with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. It's the latest in a series of foreign trips during which the former rebel commander has been seeking to develop close relations with the West and attract foreign investment. Recapping the top story, the Western Cape Education Department has urged parents who have not yet applied for grade 8 placements for their children for the 2027 academic year to do so with urgency. I'm Ondelambana for SAFM News Headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Exciting news, South Africa. SABC TV Licenses has partnered with Capitec to make paying your TV license simple, affordable and accessible. If you're a Capitec client, sign into the app and click on Transact. Next, select Pay Bills, then click Pay At and enter your reference number to complete your payment. It's as easy as that. You'll receive instant SMS confirmation. Now you can keep your stories alive and your screens shining bright. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to the Talking Point 6 after 11 o'clock. And in this hour, we're going to be looking at the situation in Cuba. So what we know is that Cuba has been experiencing a severe economic and energy crisis with widespread nationwide blackouts and critical shortages of fuel, food, and medicine. The situation has been intensified by U.S. sanctions, an oil blockade, and the loss of fuel shipments from Venezuela. In an effort to assist with the humanitarian crisis, the Nuestra America convoy has delivered the first shipment for communities that have been affected by the ongoing embargo. So then in this half hour, we're going to explore really what is the situation on the ground in Cuba. Joining us for this conversation is the Honorable Fakri Rodriguez Pinelo, who is the Cuban ambassador to South Africa. Honorable Ambassador, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Morning for having us here. Thank you very much.
James Schneider is Communications Director for the Progressive International. James, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Ambassador, let me start with you. If you can, give us an account of what the situation in your home country is right now.
Well, really the situation in Cuba is very dire at this moment, directly affected by the measures that the U.S. has been imposing on Cuba, unilaterally imposing on Cuba in the recent times with these oil restrictions that they have threatened other countries that usually commerce oil with us, or send oil to Cuba. Due to the pressures of the United States of America government, we haven't been able to receive a constant flow of oil to Cuba, which is, of course, a basic need in order to develop and for social development.
It's being described as a humanitarian issue that is unfolding and has the potential of worsening if nothing changes. Bring us the full picture of what, from the perspective of a humanitarian crisis, this really entails for the people of Cuba currently. So what are people experiencing in the countries? Where are the greatest difficulties when it comes to a continuation of the ordinary way of life?
Well, let me put into context our listeners. Cuba has been under siege for more than 60 years, and we have been able to survive all this time because of the resilience and of the genuinity of the Cuban people to resist this type of measures. Nevertheless, since 2017, those measures against Cuba from the U.S. have tightened very, very significantly. And the last one, which is what we're talking about, the oil blockade on Cuba, of course, it has a very widespread affectations on Cuba everywhere. I mean, imagine that public transport is on a hold. The economy is crippled by the lack of possibilities to move merchandise, bringing fresh produce from the countryside to the cities. In the households, we are all experiencing long hours, and I mean really long hours of blackouts, consistent blackouts in our communities. This has, of course, a very hard effect on families, not able to cook in time, not able to prepare children for school. Schools are affected, of course. No lights means that there is no way to put entertainment for the educational entertainment for kids. But also the biggest pinch is, I think, is on the health sector. I mean, hospitals that are not able to function accordingly. We have long lists of patients who need operations and aren't able to receive them for a long time because of the constant blackouts. So this is really a very criminal way of punishing, a collective punishment on the Cuban people by the U.S. government, and they admittedly say it very, very in front of it. So it's something very complicated to navigate. Of course, we are looking, and we have been looking at ways on how to survive in this atmosphere of no oil. But definitely, it has a great impact, and it's a great humanitarian impact on our country.
James, let me come to you. If you can then help us understand the work your organization has been doing in Cuba.
So we were one of the organizers of the Nuestra America convoy to Cuba to respond to the humanitarian crisis caused by the United States, which the ambassador has just laid out. As he was saying, and what he's been saying has been backed up by UN experts who have warned that intensive care units and emergency rooms are compromised, that the production, delivery and storage of medicines is also compromised. And that's what we saw there last week and the week before. We organized a large aid convoy by air, land and sea, bringing over 35 tons of critical medicines, cancer drugs, antibiotics, pain relief, nutritional supplements, vitamins, non-perishable foods, and importantly, solar energy and batteries to help keep the lights on in clinics and provide the medicines that Cuban doctors need. Now, the Cuban healthcare system is really quite remarkable. In the face of 65 plus years of intense restrictions, to deliver very good outcomes by international standards, a life expectancy on a par with the United States. But going to hospitals, as we did as part of our convoy, you can see the real strain, the makeshift efforts that doctors have to go through and the intense stress on them. I mean, imagine that you are ventilating a child in a neonatal unit and the energy goes out and there's a complete grid failure. This is what is being done, and it is very clearly causing a loss of life. If you look at, the ambassador mentioned the tightening of restrictions on Cuba from 2017. If you look at the impact of that from 2018 to today, infant mortality has more than doubled. And we don't even have the latest figures since the fuel blockade became total. Until the Russian tanker reached yesterday, there hasn't been a drop of oil that has reached Cuba apart from a tiny amount which can only be sold to private companies since December. Sure. Now, imagine where you live, what the impact would be if there was no oil were reaching your neighborhood.
One can't even begin to fathom, James, what exactly that would mean for way of life. Something as simple as just people being able to get to work on a day-to-day basis would, of course, be affected. What went into organizing the effort of that convoy last week? And the reason I'm asking this question is, on the one hand, I'm thinking, well, what is it going to take, right, to have sustained efforts that continue to help the people of Cuba within the existence of these sanctions, because it doesn't look like they're going to be going away anytime soon.
Of course, it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of organizational and logistical work. There are Cuba solidarity organizations all over the world who have been doing this for a long time, gathering up aid, organizing charter flights, dealing with the import and the export authorities, getting the aid in, seeing that it is distributed. But really all of this is driven by solidarity and repaying the solidarity that the Cuban people have given to the world for decades upon decades. If there is a major health crisis anywhere in the world, pretty much the first people there are Cuban doctors. When Ebola broke out in West Africa, in Liberia and Sierra Leone, it was Cuban doctors there putting their lives at risk on the front line. When COVID broke out and it was ripping through Italy in early 2020, again, Cuban doctors are the first ones there. When one of the hospitals that I visited delivering aid with the Puerto Rican delegation, the Salvador Allende Hospital, that hospital has sent medical brigades of Cuban doctors to 41 countries. So really it's powered by the good karma of solidarity coming back. And that will happen again and again and again, I think, from people of good conscience around the world. But as you say, that's not enough. What we need to see, and hopefully we will see, I saw yesterday the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, said that Mexico reserves the sovereign right to send oil to Cuba. The total oil blockade appears to have been broken at least once by this Russian tanker. we need the states of the world to step up to their commitments. Every single year at the UN General Assembly, there is a near unanimous vote. The US votes against, and a couple of small island states that have a relationship with the United States vote against. But almost every other state on Earth votes that this blockade against Cuba is illegal, because it's plainly illegal. The UN experts said that this latest executive order by Donald Trump in January on Cuba was, quote, a serious violation of international law and a grave threat to a democratic and equitable international order. So if any states believe in a democratic and equitable international order, they have to help break these conditions by sending fuel and many other things that are needed on the island, so that the Cuban people can make up their own minds and organize the society the way in which they want to do, in mutual respect with everybody else.
Honorable Ambassador Pinello, I'm thinking about what then the initiatives or conversations that might be underway currently between your governments and that not only of the United States, but also, I think most importantly, of countries who are not only willing to stand in solidarity with Cuba in word, but are willing to back that up in action. What James is talking about in terms of that ship from Russia was quite a strong statement, and I think the world was watching when that statement was being made. But are we seeing enough countries that are actually willing to go to that extent in solidifying their solidarity?
No, listen, definitely. Look, Cuba doesn't want to be in this situation. This is totally unwarranted for. As James was saying, we want to persecute our own destiny with our own effort, with our own mindset. And the decision by the Cuban people cannot be in question in that sense. Of course, we have received a lot of solidarity from many countries in the world, not only the traditional partners of Cuba in the world, but also many other countries that are willing to stand up and have a voice for Cuba in the international community, which is something very needed. We need to counterbalance all the propaganda that's coming from the US in terms of Cuba and how it manages its society and how the government works and how the society is being served by government. So definitely this convoy was one huge effort of humanitarian effort for Cuba. It is we really appreciate it, and as James says, it takes a lot of time. It's time from people like him and many others that allocate to organizing solidarity efforts to Cuba. But also on a government level, many countries have also stepped up. As James was saying, we received a shipment of oil from Russia. We've had very strong declarations from Russia of support, but also Mexico. Also China is doing a lot of aid, especially in terms of foodstuff. Like we received more than 100,000 tons of rice as a donation from the government of China. And also they've been very helpful in trying to curb this absence of oil in terms of investing in renewable energy, which is what we are doing right now. We're trying to duplicate in very quick time the amount of energy that we can source from solar panels. So there are definitely many countries. South Africa is one of them. It's one country that has stood up for us many times. And nowadays we receive a lot of measures of support, not only from the government and from the political parties and organizations, but also from everyday people that come up to us and say, what can we do for you now? You've always been here for us. What can we do now? So we are really thankful for that. And we see, of course, that the way out of this situation cannot be a confrontation, cannot be on the military side. Cuba has done nothing to deserve a military aggression. Cuba does not deserve the situation that we are living today. And what we need is dialogue. And definitely that is going on in terms of working out the differences between the two countries. And definitely what is really, really not in play here is the definition or the imposition of political ideas on us. I mean, constitutional changes, government changes, it's not up to the US or any other country to do it. It's not up to us to impose on anybody. We don't do it on anybody. So this is something that is very basic, to respect Cuba as a sovereign nation that it is for so many years, working hard for the people.
We're going to continue with our conversation shortly.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
A space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
Innovation does not end with the close of the SA Innovation Week. The week marked the beginning of deeper collaboration, continued investment and sustained support for innovators throughout South Africa. SA Innovation Week was not just about dialogue. It was about commitments, partnerships and actionable outcomes that will continue beyond the event. Brought to you by the Technology Innovation Agency, an entity of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation on The Talking Point. We are unpacking the situation in Cuba and getting a sense of just how extensive that country and its people have been affected by the ongoing and intensified U.S. sanctions that have included an oil blockade. And of course, it is having an impact on food, on medicine, and there are critical shortages of fuel. James Schneider is with Progressive International. They're among the organizers of the Nuestra America convoy that has been able to deliver a first shipment of different goods for communities, including oil. And in studio with me is Honorable Fakri Rodriguez Pinelo, who is the Cuban ambassador to South Africa. So maybe then if we can just take a look at the way forward. Ambassador, what happens if nothing changes?
Well, definitely it's a very grave situation. I mean, what we've talking about, the deteriorating situation, social situation in Cuba, it's worsening by the minute. If nothing changes, I can tell you that Cuba and its people will find ways to survive. That has been our lifelong challenges that we have faced. And this time around, it will not be different. Of course, we are not going to do it alone. We are very, very confident that we have many thousands and thousands and thousands of friends in the whole world who would not allow us to perish as a country. So definitely we will adapt. Mm-hmm. We will look for ways in which we can curb the actual situations that we're having now. Mm-hmm. And we'll invest in people. It's what we best do, invest in people and try to lessen the difficulties that we are having today.
James, what must the international community know, and I think more than importantly, do about the situation in Cuba?
I think it's a question of courage. It's not a question of knowledge. The international community is well aware of the conditions in Cuba and what is causing them. What they need to do is have the courage to act and to act together. They should also know that the policy of the US government against Cuba is profoundly against the wishes of the US public. We conducted some polling of the US public about 10 days ago, which found overwhelming opposition to attempts at regime change, at a naval blockade, and at a naval blockade of Cuba. So what the countries of the world, I would greatly encourage them to do, is have the courage to act together. If the governments of, say, Spain, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and many others together delivered a large shipment of oil to Cuba, would the United States stop them? If the countries of the world said that this is, we say this is wrong every year, and we are going to help to unpick that wrong. We're going to help so that companies can do business with Cuba, that Cuba can get access to finance, that Cuba's world-leading medicines, Cuba has a world-leading biomedical sector, that its medicines can get out to the world and get out to market, and also be a source of funds for the Cuban people. These things are all within our reach. The governments of the world could make life easier for Cuba, and by doing so, they would just be following international law and the statements that they have been making. All it requires is to see clearly that the US policy is both wrong and unsustainable. It's not something that the Trump administration can continue forever. It's not something which is popular in the United States. So I think if all peoples of the world and their governments of good conscience decided that they were going to act in such a way to allow the Cubans to live and to decide their own future for themselves, then that will mark a great step forward, yes, for the Cuban people, but for the world at large.
Ambassador Pinello, why do you think the U.S. wants to see regime change in Cuba?
Well, that's a question that maybe we should ask the U.S. government, but they have been very clear that they do not accommodate the idea of a socialist country very close to their area. I think the example that Cuba has set in the world in terms of solidarity, in terms of human development, in terms of putting people in the center of governance, it's something that is very different to the policies in the U.S. Plus, also there's a lot of politics playing behind. For Cuba policy towards U.S. policy towards Cuba. Of course, remember Cuba came from a very difficult dictatorship in the 1950s, in which the Cuban population was suffering the wrath of a dictator, a military, ruthless dictator, and the Cuban people rose, and the Cuban people accompanied the guerrilla forces led by Fidel Castro and the rest of the guerrillas there, and there was a huge transformation, a social transformation in Cuba, that of course affected core economic issues of the U.S. they had in Cuba. So I think those type of things are still in the mindset of the American politics, recover what they lost with the Cuban Revolution. But definitely the Cuban people has had centuries of fight for sovereignty, fight for independence. First against the Spanish, then against neo-colonial rule from the U.S. in the first half of the 20th century. So there's a mindset in the Cubans that we are not willing to be governed. We are not willing to surrender what we have long fought for and what have so many people gave their life to.
Is that the message that you want to leave with South Africans and others listening to this platform this morning?
Yes, definitely. The message that Cuba brings is that Cuba will not surrender its values. We have hard fought for it, but it's an example for all countries that face similar pressures from imperialist countries or powerful countries. You have to resist. You have to respect the will of your people in order to survive as a country, in order to develop. Cuba wants to develop. I mean, Cuba would have been in a much better position if we had not had the U.S. blockade for so many years.
Ambassador Pinello, let me thank you so much for your time on the show today. And James Schneider, let me thank you too for your time and your insights. It's 11:30 now. It's time for the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, the National Taxi Alliance says commuters can expect a fare increase of around 6 Rand per trip from tomorrow as a result of the fuel price increase. Petrol is expected to rise by more than 5 Rand per litre, while diesel could increase by nearly 10 Rand per litre. The Western Cape Education Department has urged parents who have not yet applied for grade 8 placements for their children for the 2027 academic year to do so with urgency. And with Easter just around the corner, several countries have warned their citizens to exercise extreme caution when travelling to South Africa. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This Human Rights Month, we commemorate a significant milestone, the Bill of Rights at 30, making human dignity real. For 3 decades, South Africa's constitution has been a beacon of equality, freedom and justice for all. Yet dignity is not just written in our constitution, it must be lived, protected and upheld every single day. Join SAFM as we unpack the issues that matter, elevate voices driving change, and reflect on the progress we've made while confronting the work that still lies ahead. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays 9 a.m. till midday.
Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tere.
I was deeply touched by the words Imogen Mkhize, non-executive director of Sasol, had to say about my time there. The speech by Imogen Mkhize continues. Thank you. Nolita, we are honored by your humility, your empathy, and kindness. It is this thoughtfulness that David Constable remembers distinctly when he first landed in South Africa to take on his new role as CEO of Sasol. He says you were the first one there at his hotel to welcome him and his family. You spent part of your weekend time helping them get settled. And as David and his family got to know you better, in and outside of the office, they were positively awed by your nature of inclusivity and your respect for everyone, irrespective of their rank or station in life. That you are very approachable and you inspire people across the board is a theme that carried through my conversations. With your leadership style, your gravitas, and yet a quiet manner, some have described you as the glue that holds the place together. A recent Financial Mail article on Sasol identified you as Sasol's highly rated Executive Vice President of Strategy and Sustainability. And I thought that was just fitting. The impact of your decisions and recommendations has positively affected the lives of many, like the unemployed graduates that you exposed to the Sasol operational environments, including Synfuels and Qatar, the Women's Mentorship Circle you started at Sasol, and other initiatives. You have overseen the creation of a talented, dedicated, and diverse workforce, which has been crucial to the success and image of Sasol over the last decade. As I conclude, I would be remiss not to mention the role you have played in Sasol's external stakeholder relationships. Notably, You have been extremely helpful in getting the Sasol leadership to move forward with government relations. In fact, according to Hicksonia, our former chairman, you somehow managed to be highly respected by many sectors of government without any kind of patronage. You certainly did not feel that you had to pander to them. So, with your consistent dignity inside and outside of Sasol, it could be said that you protected and enhanced the Sasol brand in many respects. And so, tonight, after 11 years of a successful tenure with this great company, we recognize your immense contribution. As we pay tribute and bid you farewell, your generosity of spirit, your grace, and the legacy you have created will leave an indelible mark on us as individuals and the company as a whole. Now, on behalf of the Board of Directors of Sasol, the Group Executive Committee, and the people of Sasol, we thank you profoundly for your valuable service, your leadership, and your friendship. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Part 5, The Journey Ahead. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, united in our diversity. We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by law. Improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person, and build a united and democratic South Africa, able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. May God protect our people. Nkosi sikeleli Afrika. Murena buluka sichaba sa Yesu. God sien South Africa. God bless South Africa. Mudzimu fatuchedza Afrika. Hosi katekisa Afrika. From the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996 Preamble. Chapter 14. Reigniting the Gender Agenda. It is now widely understood that a person can have multiple careers in a lifetime. David Constable's departure from Sasol presented an opportunity for me to reconsider my own path. Serving under 2 CEOs over 11 years at Sasol and having spent 26 years in the business world, I realized that, God willing, I may have another 25 years of active business life left. It was time for a gap year to re-energize and reflect on how to make the most of my second act. One thing that emerged very clearly for me in this time of contemplation was the urgency of putting gender equality back at the top and center of transformation efforts. Recalling that one of my biggest conflicts in accepting the role at Sasol had been the necessity of stepping down from running for a second BMF presidency, my mind circled back to what had been left undone in a term of 3 rather than 6 years. When I left the BMF presidency, 2 of 9 BMF chairpersons were female and most branches had women in leadership positions. That said, we still fell short of the 30% target we had set to ensure that more women would emerge to take on a national leadership role. Our failure to continue adequately to fill the pipeline with qualified women is evidenced in the fact that nearly 15 years later, I remained the only woman to have served as BMF president. This is a sore point for me, because I believe had we continued to drive the momentum around gender equality gained under my presidency, we would be seeing a lot more women leaders both within the BMF as well as other business structures today. It was with this in mind that, having left Sasol, I realized I needed to dust off the various shoes I journeyed in as BMF president all those years ago, relace my boots, and recommit myself to promoting the gender agenda. It was time to join another dance. The firstborn generation, a responsibility and a privilege. Taking stock now, I feel that I perhaps could and should have pushed harder for the gender agenda even earlier in my career. Part of the blind spot came from the fact that in 1994, when as a country we first started talking about transformation, the most obvious pressing issue was racial inequality and the need for post-apartheid redress. For me and many others, what hit you back then was the whiteness of any given institution and the desire to see people who looked and talked like us, which, in that context, meant gravitating first and foremost to the issues of South Africa's demographics. As gender quickly became part of the transformation conversation, many private sector organizations attempted to get around employment equity, or BEE targets, by hiring white women to improve their numbers. Those companies would say, "Oh, we've got 50% gender diversity in our company. We just need to deal with the racial issue," as if the latter were a cherry on top of their transformation efforts, which came down to 5 of their 10 people being female, all of whom, it would turn out, were white. That strategy continues to reflect in the stats today, with white males still leading in management and leadership positions, followed by white females, then black males, and black females remaining at the bottom of the transformation ladder. With the gender agenda partially hijacked by those trying to avoid dealing with the real issues of transformation and culture change, many of us, including black women, felt we had to keep our focus trained on racial discrimination. In this way, gender transformation and equality ended up undermined. And frankly, the agenda has languished at all levels across all companies and types of engagements, and particularly across the racial divide.
There was another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. The book is available online and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. The book is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuru.
For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program, evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa, to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to The Full Circle,
a space where generations come together in conversation that seek to spark curiosity, inspire innovation, and feed the curious mind. For arts, culture, and robust conversations, join me every weekday between 1 and 3 p.m. on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga as we explore the stories, lessons, and conversations that guide us back to self.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.5 FM in Tabazimbi.
Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tebe.
Thinking back to the Carlton Center Conference in 1995, when we women were admonished by some of our black male colleagues to wait in the queue, it is with chagrin that I acknowledged how many still hold this view. To this day, you hear anecdotes and comments from black male colleagues and leaders that this gender equality thing is going too fast, or that's fine out there, but not in my house. These kind of comments are often said jokingly, but in many instances, much that is said in jest speaks to a deeper truth. To be very clear, gender equality remains a problem for everyone across all races, but the complexities that come with the racial divide, meaning the need to tackle gender and race simultaneously, make the problem even thornier. Which is why, as much as I hesitate to open myself to misrepresentation, I feel the need to spark meaningful conversations around the gender agenda among and within the black community in particular. Let me begin that conversation by focusing on one of the ways feminine power is recognized and upheld within African culture. In the Xhosa tradition, our firstborn daughters are called mafungwashe, which means the one you swear by. Within families, mafungwashe is expected to act as a moral compass. She is the glue that binds the family together. Hers is a highly influential role that acknowledges women's power. It is also a role that comes with a tremendous sense of responsibility, because you can be a mafungwashe who is very divisive within the family, or one who guides the family to harmony and prosperity. As a mafungwashe in my own family, the responsibility and privilege attached to this role were made particularly clear to me when I was about 18, and it was time for my younger brother Vuyo to go through ulwaluko, or his circumcision rite of passage. The details of the ceremony are guarded closely by men, and women are not supposed to and do not feature. However, my mother wanted to ensure that my brother would be safe and properly looked after, a concern that would normally have fallen to our father, who was no longer there. Although my uncle was handling things, my mother, whose direct engagement in any part of the process would have been seen as disrespectful, wanted more assurance. Gathering my uncle and me a few days before the ceremony, my mother asked us to find out who the Ncibi, the surgeon, would be, and to speak with him. She wanted to make sure that he knew what he was doing, that he would do right by her son, and that, insofar as possible, he would see that my brother was first in line. Normally, there are 5 or 10 boys being taken through the ceremony, and in those days, sterilization of tools was an even bigger issue that we, as women who didn't know exactly how things would happen, wanted to safeguard. This is how I found myself joining my uncle to meet with the 2 men who would oversee this critical rite of passage in my brother's life. My uncle organized the meeting, handling the introductions ahead of time, so that when he and I arrived, the 2 men knew I was there as Mafungwashe, and therefore accepted my presence. In turn, I was able to reassure my mother, who the day before the ceremony also had me go with my uncle to inspect the Iboma, traditional hut, where my brother would be. You know how men are. He'll say it's fine when it's not fine, she had worried. For the record, I never saw or visited my brother on the night of his ulwaluko. I only visited him 2 weeks after his circumcision, as custom allowed, after umochiso. While my mother's focus on my brother's safety and comfort in the ceremony that effectively initiated him, as a man may seem excessive, underlying it was her desire that he not feel the absence of our father at this critical moment in his life as a man. That I was able to play the role I did and be in those conversations because, as my uncle said, she's not just a girl, she's Mafungwash, was a balm to us all as a family. It also demonstrates one of the many ways in which African culture recognizes and accommodates in that most sacred of male spaces, female power and responsibility. That said, upon reflection, this story also illustrates for me the important role that economic independence plays in terms of a woman's ability, regardless of cultural context, to lay claim to her power. I did not see this at the time, but my mother's economic independence gave her leverage within our community, including with my uncles. It was only much later, when I grew up and saw how other families and spaces worked, that I realized that even though we hadn't broken any cultural law, my presence had been possible, both because our culture acknowledges women's important roles, but also because my mother's position allowed us to fully claim the privileges of that role. This brings me to another key point about privilege and being first. Reflecting on my journey of firsts in my career, first woman this, first black person that, I see a strong parallel between the privileges and responsibilities attached to being part of the generation of firstborns in the boardroom and those belonging to Mafungwashe. That is, there are a lot of Mafungwashes out there, not necessarily in the context I've just scoped, but by virtue of being firsts in different career spaces. And therefore, I believe that if you are somewhere on a ticket of Mafungwashe, there are expectations around you in terms of how you will use that opportunity and role to do good by those you represent, and rightfully so. I know many women and black people are reluctant to accept such a role, insisting, but I'm here on merit. And while that may be true, I believe you must also acknowledge that within that company or institution, you are there representing your gender or race, whether you wish it or not. Personally, I am very clear on the fact that I would not be where I am today without affirmative action, and that South Africa's employment equity legislation was a factor in getting me into many boardrooms. Obviously, what I did with those opportunities once I got inside the boardrooms is all on me, for better or worse. My point is, I believe being a first carries an extra responsibility and implied mandate to represent those who are not present, especially in environments that previously were populated exclusively by men. Equal opportunity. Like all culture change, the gender agenda's reception is directly linked to where the broader external environment and culture is. Once again, we return to the issue of macrocosm and microcosm, that whatever is happening in society plays itself back into organizations and businesses. It is no coincidence that when I became the first female president of the BMF, our country's president, Thabo Mbeki, was a gender activist of note, whose cabinet included at least 30% of women, and that the general atmosphere was politically conducive to gender equality, with 5 of the 9 provincial premiers also being female. Here, we encounter an interesting dynamic that speaks to the relationship between leaders and culture. Leaders guide the conversations we are having, as well as create the culture that in turn influences who will be chosen as a leader. This truth was displayed when President Mbeki stepped down. Across different sectors of our society, I saw the whole public narrative shift, with those who had not fully bought into gender equality emboldened to push the issue aside and drive other agendas. The gender agenda, sadly, was just one of the many casualties in what became a large-scale and ongoing battle between transparency and fairness on one hand, and corruption and state capture on the other. The resulting environment, in which access to opportunity became increasingly unequal, not only stunted the promotion of gender equality, but also helped sexual harassment, among other ills, to thrive.
There was another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. The book is available online and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. The book is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. Technical production, Wiseman Manwele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuru.
This Human Rights Month, we commemorate a significant milestone, the Bill of Rights at 30, making human dignity real. For 3 decades, South Africa's constitution has been a beacon of equality, freedom, and justice for all. Yet dignity is not just written in our constitution, it must be lived, protected, and upheld every single day. Join SAFM as we unpack the issues that matter, elevate voices driving change, and reflect on the progress we've made while confronting the work that still lies ahead. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.2 FM in Thohoyandou.
Well, it is 12 o'clock. It's Tuesday, the 31st of March, 2026. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAM, leading the conversation. I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
Last year, we also signed a 25-year concession for the Durban Container Terminal prior to, representing 11 billion in private investment.
Well, the 6th South Africa Investment Conference currently underway here at the Sandton Convention Centre in Johannesburg. President Cyril Ramaphosa currently addressing delegates here. And of course, this is where our show is coming to you from today. Please let us know your thoughts on this. And of course, we'll also be engaging some of the stakeholders, some of those who will be making pledges here this afternoon. So let us know your thoughts and perhaps also what your expectations might be in this regard. Well, you can get in touch with us, 41391. That's the SMS line number. You'll be charged R1.50 per SMS. You can also get in touch via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note. 0826923909 is the number to dial. Well, more stories coming to you here from the Sandton Convention Centre for the 6th South Africa Investment Conference. But first, here's your latest news with Ondelambana.
Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, a man shot and killed in a taxi violence incident in Delft, and parents in the Western Cape urged to apply for grade 8 placements. For SFM News, I'm Ondelambana, and a very good day. A man has been shot and killed and 2 others wounded in a suspected minibus taxi violence incident in Delft on the Cape Flats last night. One of the wounded victims is an elderly man. Police spokesperson Wesley Twigg says the 3 victims had been standing at a taxi association's office when gunmen attacked them. He says no arrests have been made.
Police members attended to the crime scene where they found the victims with gunshot wounds to their bodies. The 36-year-old victim was declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel, while the other victims were transported to a medical facility for treatment. The suspects fled the scene and are yet to be arrested. The motive for the attack is believed to be taxi-related.
Music never sleeps, and neither do we.
This is SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM.
Music never sleeps, and neither do we.
ngikhathali eyo nto phela isuyinzima hard work again ngivuke ekuseni ngenza uhlelo kumele ngabenza njalo I hold my impumelela sesiseduze
This is SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?